Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L coming in with My Hero Academia chapter 356. Oh no, wait, that's not what I wanted to start the video with. Let me just do that again. Hey everybody, welcome to My Simp Academia, where we sit down and I simp on Hero Academia, but responsibly. Okay, that was a much better opening. Hello everybody, it's chapter 356. Okay, so this chapter, I liked it. I think there's a lot of cool little things here. It's definitely one of those chapters that makes me want to play detective a lot more. I'm personally still enjoying it. I will say, I got so many general notes. I feel that the next chapter, 357, with the way that this one ends, I feel like that one's going to just be full-on Endeavor versus All For One. If the author does anything else but that, that'd be like a little bit of a surprise, but I definitely feel you're going to be seeing Endeavor versus All For One there, and it's going to... I really hope... Like, we were talking about this, like, once we were looking at Toya, but I really hope that we get to see Endeavor become, like, the second coming of All Might, in the sense that All For One is, like, ripping this man apart, and Endeavor is still going for him. I want to see terror in All For One's non-existent eyes, you know? That's kind of what I'm feeling here. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm very excited. Now, the author could go and aggressively... shift to another battlefield. That would be very uncool, not cool at all. But the editor's note for last week made it seem like it's gonna be like, oh my god, guys, like, check out Endeavor. It makes it seem like we're gonna see more Endeavor this coming week. Anyway, in terms of general notes, I'm just trying to think about how to do this, because we can do by page walkthrough, or like the general notes. But there's a few spots here that are very interesting, both because of like the structure and also because of the idea that went into it. I'm trying to think about how to present it. I think we'll just go with page by page walkthrough, and I'll just talk about it once we get there. Maybe that'll be better too, because I'll be able to talk about more things, because like the general note itself requires seeing the chapter as well. So maybe that'll be the better way of going about it. All right, I hope you're having a great day. Let's get into My Hero Academia 356. Okay, I'm just looking at the first page, and I realized there's one general note that we can talk about, and that's specifically Tokoyami. So in the first page, we start off with Tokoyami being helped by Jiro. We also see Jiro here. I still feel like she has some of her ear, that what she really lost was her earlobe. Like, I see a little bit of bulge there, but yeah, we have Jiro. She's helping out Tokoyami, gives Tokoyami her jacket. I thought this was interesting, only in the sense that that jacket... like, it didn't provide that much darkness for that long, but yet he was able to go in with a fleeting Ragnarok. So that was pretty cool. So let's look at page 1, 2, and 3. Page 1 and 2 and 3, they don't really have all too much. What they pretty much do is set up, justify, and you get a very wonderful little moment there with Tokoyami's attack. Now, what's important about these 3 pages is just what Tokoyami got to do. Last chapter I was saying, well, I really hope that Tokoyami gets something, because if he does get something, it'll be a little bit of an indication that the author is trying to do something for the kids. Now, if you remember, what I wanted to really see was more Tokoyami rhetoric. I wanted Tokoyami to like get a moment where he gets to say something to All For One. We don't really get that here, but you also have actually Tokoyami delivering an extreme move to All For One. Like, he's even getting the smash effect. So like, that was a hardcore and extreme move. Like, it was ultimately a Ragnarok. Tokoyami was able to ignore the effects of sunlight for a little bit of time. So that is, I think it is a really big deal. So while Jiro gets something a little bit more interesting when it comes to the idea that she got to talk to All For One, Tokoyami actually gets to deliver such a hit that turns All For One into a ragdoll. And I've seen that people are still kind of like upset about Jiro and Tokoyami being there. Honestly, I'm still not upset about that thing. I think more heroes should be near All For One. I think the higher echelons of Class 1A should be also involved versus All For One. I think everyone should be getting something to do. I really don't mind. I don't think there's anything wrong with these people being up against All For One. The thing that people have to remember is that Hero Academia is not like Bleach. In Bleach, there is a minimum line of power that someone has to be at in order to be able to do things against their enemy. mostly because of Reiatsu, pressure, and all that kind of stuff. In One Piece, there's also a minimum line of power that someone needs to be at to be able to do stuff because of Haki. Hero Academia doesn't have that. Hero Academia is just flat out, either you're born with it or you're not. And the thing is here, that Tokoyami, he is really one of the most, he is strangely handled in the series, because Tokoyami technically is comparable to Izuku, Bakugo, and Shoto. The problem is Tokoyami is antisocial, and it really comes out in the manga. But he is comparable to those those three characters, because since the beginning he's been getting accolades. Like when Izuku goes on internship, Tokoyami is one of the people going on internship as well. He has a significant leg up on a lot of these people here. He's the guy that pushed back Redestro. So Tokoyami does have a lot of accolades, and between him and Jiro, Tokoyami has shown in many ways that he is much more worthwhile than Jiro is, because he is able to actually dodge some of All For One without needing the assist from Hawks. Anyway, that was like the bigger point of like Tokoyami's justified being here, and like All For One, there's nothing really, there's no minimum line. Anyone can really enter this fight. The thing that All For One does is that he steals powers, but he's not doing it, which leads me to one other big point here. Seeing what's going on here with All For One being turned into a ragdoll, and also worth pointing out, it's wonderful that we get to be we are in a place where I can actually say God of the Night Tokoyami turned All For One into a ragdoll. Like, come on, man. Like, look at this face that the man is making. That's the face of fear. Don't ask me how I'm able to tell, but I can see fear here. And Tokoyami's the one that did that. What it looks like to me, though, is that All For One is very easily overwhelmed by multiple combatants, as is logically coherent. When I'm seeing this, it's funny because Hawks went in there thinking that they couldn't do this. They couldn't gang up on him, but we're seeing that ganging up on All For One is actually a relatively viable thing. Now, mind you, All For One has the problem that his sensors aren't really working. But this is one of those spots where it would have been nice if the author had kept more heroes on reserve to watch the fight above, in case those heroes needed to make some last-minute attacks to reinforce Hawks and Endeavor. And I'm thinking more like long-range heroes that wouldn't be in danger of being attacked. It's just, at the end of the day, All For One is not a god. Every quirk that he has requires him actively using it. Those little moments, and we saw that like Hawks can definitely sneak some attacks, and he can't keep up with both of them at the same time. Having people on the ground that can maybe shoot at him, this is one of those spots where even having a sniper would have been very worthwhile. But mind you, like, it would have to be an anime sniper and not like a real world sniper. But then you also have Snipe. You could have, there could have been more places here to make something a little bit more engaging. But the other problem here is that adding more heroes and making a more technical approach wastes panel space. And so in a world where you're just trying to get through things quickly, it's like, yeah, throw in the valuable characters, that being the significant pro heroes and the class 1A, and then just kind of move through it. I do feel that when we're looking at this final arc is like a series of compromises as well, just because this guy is trying to end at a particular time, and there's just so much material. Yeah, like this arc of Hero Academia is all about compromises. Even in the structure of how he presents the story, that being his new strategy of telling the story and then telling the slow moments and flashbacks at the beginning of chapters, that itself is a compromise. Okay, before we move on, I just wanted to quickly point to this particular panel right here, where you can see the squigglies. These squiggly lines, again, Horikoshi was telling a story through the background effects, and it's just kind of cool. Like, the squiggly lines are clearly representative of the fact that All For One couldn't really sense Tokoyami coming because of, whatever quirk jamming effect the revolution inside of his body was having. It's just really cool. Just wanted to point it out before I moved on. Just very quickly, like, I was just reading back chapter 355. I really do wonder, and this is about specifically the thing about having more people there, I wonder how you can be in a situation where someone is sent to a location as additional support in the event of a stalemate between the top powers. I wonder how you get into a situation where that person is a child and you have no other adult heroes there to help out. I really don't understand that. So it's just again one of those little things. This whole thing really proved that having more people there after a certain point could be viable. I really think the best approach here would have been to have more people on standby in case of a stalemate between the top powers, in the same way that Tokoyami was. In the case of an event that they injured him, that they could then come in and attack. I think that would have been good, but I understand that there's probably compromises that are being made here because the author does want to get Hero Academia done at a particular timeline. Overall, with Tokoyami, I think he got a good moment. I do wish we had more rhetoric, but this is still a very good showing for Class 1A. This makes me hopeful for the future, and I again hope that we get moments similar to this for the other kids. Although right now, I think while Jiro's moment in the previous chapter doesn't have a lot of depth to it, because at the end of the day, it's just a girl saying, like, I don't like people making my friends cry. She got to speak to All For One. She got to stand and she got to say something against him. I do hope we get to have the Jiro quality of moment with also the Tokoyami quality of damage. But we'll have to see what happens in the future. Anyway, moving from page 2, 3, and 1. Well, actually, bottom of 3, just very quickly. You saw that Hawks had sent feathers towards Jiro. You see that Jiro's able to catch Tokoyami. And you have Hawks saying, like, yeah, no, gnats can be a pain in the butt. The thing is, insects are always pain in the butt. Like, an insect can kill you, all right? Like, this is the problem. Like, he has to be very careful. Like, even a fly. It flies around, lands on poop. You're going to have a really bad day if that lands in your mouth. And that's a big deal for him because, like, All For One, one of his last untouched places is his mouth. So he should really value that. Anyway, the Tokoyami segment, very good. We go into page 4. And this is probably one of the best faces for All For One I've ever seen. Like, I'm not even sure what I'm looking at here, but it looks very cute, looks very comical, looks very pathetic. So what we see here is All For One saying he needed to dodge that attack at all costs. I love knowing that there was something of Tokoyami that he had to dodge. I love knowing that he realized that. Honestly, I feel like Tokoyami did a lot of damage in that one. Now, page 4 is both a nice page and just a page that makes me really sad. This is one of the most critical pages in the entire chapter because it kind of sets up where exactly the author wants to go for his solutions. And I'm not happy about it. So first panel, beautiful. Second panel is the justification of why he picked up all these different sensory quirks, and him saying that he's more aware of the world around him than the average person. I really wonder about that, but okay. The third panel is the one that makes me really sad. He even goes in and says the interference didn't come from the girl's pitiful sound attack. The real cause was my own quirk's rebellion. Calling Jiro's attack pitiful is the most important thing. Because in the previous panel, he pointed out that he can detect phenomena like vibrations. And then when you come in here and you're saying that the sound attack, something that fundamentally affects vibrations, wasn't that worthwhile. You know, it's unfortunate because that would have been a very cool physical interaction. And he's just kind of throwing it to the side. So I do appreciate that he's, like, the author himself is being very clear about the rebellion. But it's just kind of sad for Jiro that, like, such a physical phenomenon, like, it would have been a cool interaction and it's being thrown to the side. You're sort of playing semantics. The pitiful sound attack is, well, actually, the surround legato or whatever Jiro did actually is probably really pitiful. The problem is, though, that there's a strange effect going on with Jiro's little ability there. And so, you know, there's a possibility here that, All For One's also wrong about what he's saying. So let me just finish up on the bottom panel. So let's just go to the bottom panel. This is a first. Did switching to the synthetic copy really make me more vulnerable? Compared to my original power, my authority has weakened. So overall, you know, we're in a position where Jiro's sound attack isn't able to interfere with All For One's senses, which is really sad. What's interfering with his reaction time is that he's having trouble using the quirks, and he's ultimately guessing that a synthetic copy made him more weak. Now, I personally don't see how going to a synthetic copy would make him weaker. But that's because I value consciousness relatively high. And from my perspective, it's a synthetic copy. But right now, the vestiges in the synthetic copy are more filled out than the silhouettes that we saw during New Order's Rebellion. Right now, the synthetic copy looks significantly more fleshed out. Like, actually. It looks significantly more fleshed out. I'm not sure that having a synthetic copy would actually weaken his authority. When he's saying this, I feel like my interpretation here is that Jiro did something. because there was that effect on the panels in the previous chapter. His authority weakened because of whatever Jiro did. It being a synthetic copy, I don't think has much to do with it. I don't think his authority. Well, I think his authority has weakened, but it's not for the reason that he's hoping it is. Like, the reality is, Vestige World shenanigans are afoot, and now we live in an era where like this is gonna probably keep happening more. Now, what we have to be looking out for is whether or not Shigaraki has the same problem. If Shigaraki ends up with the same rebellion, then this isn't an issue of the synthetic copy, like the nature of a synthetic copy making things worse. This is an issue of the vestiges growing. Now, if All For One and Shigaraki meet again, like physical body All For One and Shigaraki meet, there is a possibility that those vestiges will pass on that information to their original vestiges in Shigaraki, and then you have the rebellion starting up again. Anyway, page 4 is a super critical page. It kind of tells you where exactly the author wants to go with his solutions to some of the problems. It has All For One coming up with a hypothesis, but I do think there's enough room here to think that there is a little bit more going on here. Again, the big thing that I'm looking at is the synthetic copy has more fleshed out vestiges, and that is significant. Also, in terms of how many vestiges, I counted like 15. Let me just count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay, there's a bit more. I do hope that All For One's supporters show up to help him, though. Page 5, we see Hawks approaching, being like, I'm going to go for a straightforward attack. I'm going to strike him because it's going to work. And we also have that overlay, the really sick overlay of we see All For One attacking people. Now, here's something that's funny for those that don't follow the spoilers. But when people saw the spoilers coming out and they saw this panel, they thought this panel had a lot more to do with Endeavor, like the flames were Endeavor. And it's like, I wasn't thinking that was the case because it made no sense. And there were some people that were really grabbing at straws. Not the people on my stream, but like some people altogether. But yeah, no, like people tried to put meaning into the flames or the smoke, but it's just really All For One. It's just a metaphor for how he's trying to take people. It looks like he's about to eat them, but like remember, it doesn't matter in Vestige World. Shigaraki decayed the All For One vestige in Vestige World and nothing happened. This is just a metaphor for subordinating the vestiges once more. Page 6, we see an awesome shot of All For One showing off his rivets. What was really cool here is that if you look at the spot where the kids were attacked, you can see that there were two big splotches of impact here. And given how close Hawks was, you can actually see, well, yeah, you know, it was Endeavor coming in. It was actually pretty neat how the author put in the detail that there were two there the whole time and that Hawks was too close to be that first splotch of impact. I will say too, good on Hawks for being able to just stop what he was doing and go towards Tokoyami in that split second. Okay, now page 7 is another critical page, not because we see All For One using super glue to like repair his little helmet and see him putting the shards back so perfectly. The thing here is that, and I was talking to people about this on the live stream, but what the author did was that he repeated the big focus. He rebuilt the target that was being hit. Tokoyami broke it, and then he puts the mask back together, and then as you see in the end of the chapter, he has Endeavor breaking the mask again. Now, that itself is a strategy when it comes to like writing these things out. And when I saw it, I'm a little bit biased because like I've used a variation of this strategy before. What it pretty much does when you have this situation where you have a villain restoring itself to a similar state to the previous state, it pretty much artificially lengthens a fight because again the target becomes the thing that you just destroyed. Now there's a lot of reasons why you do this. Some reasons are to help like the writing process, other reasons are to emphasize things. But when I saw it here, like usually when you're writing a book, the reason you would target the same target twice is because maybe you needed a character to do something, but you couldn't destroy the flow of the fight. Maybe you already wrote everything around that scene, so you have to make sure that the scene goes a particular direction. So in this case, what you end up having here is that in terms of like, if you're going to say, oh, this might have been an elongating strategy, you would have evidence to say it because you have Tokoyami getting an opportunity to make a shot on All For One, and then you have Endeavor coming back in. So the way to look at it is that if you remove Tokoyami from the situation, you know, you don't get the moment where Tokoyami destroys the mask, and therefore the mask stays a target that Endeavor can then destroy. So that was it as a lengthening technique. The other thing that is really good from this moment when you have All For One repairing the mask is that you really sell the point that, hey, you know, this mask is a really big deal. Like, All For One legitimately needs this mask. He needs it so hard that he's going out of his way to super glue it back in place. The good thing about doing that and pretty much lengthening the fight again is that you really prove the point. Yeah, the heroes were right in thinking that All For One's mask was this super critical point. Now the thing here though is when you have Endeavor coming in and smashing that mask again, what it looks like, because of the targeting of the mask, that it looks like All For One really can't take any hits beyond that mask. It's like the mask itself represents a metaphorical shield, and once that shield value is destroyed, any hit that goes afterward, like any critical hit that goes afterward, that's going to be the hit that takes All For One out. So in that regard, doing this repair of the mask is really good because it really sells you on the idea that, yeah, like, it is really important that this character holds on to the mask. This leads to a bigger point about, like, you know, strategies for conflict and all that kind of stuff. And the reason I gave you like 2 examples of why this kind of thing would appear in a story, why it would be useful, is because, like, at the end of the day with Hero Academia, you don't really know what writing strategy the author is using. You don't know if he used that strategy because he needed to lengthen the fight to allow Tokoyami a moment to have his moment, or you don't know if he did it because he wants to emphasize the particular idea that this is a weak point. What will be really cool going beyond this moment is seeing what exactly he does. Like, is it true that All For One can really take one more critical hit? We'll see that in the future, and then we'll be able to say, like, okay, yeah, that's why there was so much emphasis on the mask and why it was being targeted so often. So the reason I brought up the strategies is just because at the end of the day, whether or not a strategy is better than the other one is entirely dependent on the conditions surrounding the strategy and why it was used. And it's probably one of the more fun parts of trying to discern what exactly the author was thinking at any point in time. But yeah, when I saw it, I thought that was pretty cool. At the end of the day, I think it works well because it again emphasizes that this is actually a weak point. We go into page 8 and page 9. So what I love about this is that in the spoilers, this was a really ugly panel. Like, we couldn't really see what was going on, but like the actual cleaned up version is so good. Like, you can actually see Endeavor's hand getting lobbed off there. A lot of critical detail. Really loved it. And I love how All For One is saying that it's left Endeavor twisted and disfigured. And this is where we begin the Endeavor, how he got back up. So people are saying that Endeavor's probably going to die after this. I don't think so. I think he's going to be like in an All Might situation. I think he's going to come out of this pretty alright. I don't think they're going to just kill him off. I think these heroes are going to be like in their final, like, they're going to be on fumes for the final battle here. The author kills off Endeavor, then okay, that's a choice. I think he's going to stick around though, so I'm hoping. Now, people are saying that because Endeavor's getting a flashback, that this is the end of it. And you guys know, on this channel, I also propagate the idea that, yeah, no, like, once the character gets a flashback, that's pretty done. It's over. But that the people that applied for were Nagant and New Order, and those people just showed up out of nowhere. They were just pretty much an arc character. It's a little bit different when you have a main character, and the other problem here is Endeavor's facing his past. Like, his past is actually interacting with him in the form of young Endeavor. This is a completely different kind of flashback. It's not even a different kind of flashback. It's a resolve to stand up flashback. Like, Endeavor's actively changing from remembering these events. So this thing fundamentally serves a different purpose, which is why I'm also biased to think that Endeavor's not going to die here. Anyway, on page 10, what I found interesting was this little picture up here with the angle on the Toya shrine. That was a really weird image, and I wasn't sure, like, why would you go out of your way to put a picture up there in this shrine room? But it makes sense in page 11 when it says how your father attempted to save a girl from some bastard. I'm thinking now that picture is Endeavor's father. So what's really interesting here, in the spoilers, they didn't give away, or they didn't write that was, or I think even in the fan translation, it didn't indicate that was Endeavor's father. So props again to the translation for clearing that up. That makes a lot more sense. And in terms of what young Endeavor is talking about to old Endeavor, I actually like it. I like that he cursed his weakness. I think this is a really good heroic motivation. And I like how he points out that Endeavor will never be like a superhero. It was all really just cool. And again, I like the idea that the enemy was his weakness, and his weakness is what propelled him forward, because he didn't want to be in a situation like his own father there. Now, mind you, that does open Endeavor up for some parallels to his father. Like, he dies trying to save his son from some bastard and winds up as a corpse along with his son or something like that. It opens it up, but it also requires that, you know, Endeavor not die until we have the situation with Toya fully resolved. We move on to page 12. Now, page 12 is like, it starts introducing some nuance to the situation, because like ultimately, young Endeavor is very negative. This is not a very positive situation, but for a guy whose power is called Hellflame, maybe that makes sense thematically. It's, again, props to Endeavor for always getting the nuance work, because this is a whole other level of getting up, because when you're burning the part of you that has a point about what he's saying, like, this is, again, super nuanced. So the first panel being, think back on your envy toward true supermen and your inferiority complex. Yep, I think that's really good. The second set of panels, you called yourself Endeavor as in hard work, showing your menial nature. I thought that was a really good statement. Yeah, actually, you're calling yourself hard work. You're fundamentally already lowering yourself to, you know, below the idea that you're talented. You're not talented. You're only going to get places because you're working hard. You have no aspirations to be a symbol like All Might. You're just going to work hard. I actually like how the value of working hard is a reflection of the nature of a human. You can only get to where a truly talented person is by working. I like it. That's a really good one. Remember how you had to put on airs to keep that ugly heart of yours from falling to pieces? That one doesn't land with me. Because we've never seen Endeavor put on airs. Like, Endeavor's always been Endeavor. He has never tried to be more than what he is. Like this man doesn't care. Like past Endeavor, we saw he doesn't care about you. He's just doing what he wants to do. So I never saw him putting on airs, unless he's saying that the lighting of the flame beard, because it's so useless, is the putting on of airs. That one, I don't really see what's going on there, but that might be because I'm missing something. The last set of panels, you'll never be All Might or Deku, because I've only ever done battle with the weakness within. So it's nice that they're putting Deku up on a pedestal, but remember, past Endeavor wouldn't know this, but Izuku has very specific problems, and so does All Might. Personally, I really wish that no one is like Izuku. It's because Izuku cannot be trusted to do anything correctly by himself. If you leave Izuku by himself, he's going to self-destruct, alright? You don't want to be Izuku. No one wants to be Izuku. So I don't think that's a problem. And then when it comes to All Might, you don't want to be All Might either, because All Might he doesn't have good people skills, and because of All Might, All Might will allow things to fester in society. So we don't want to be All Might either. It's actually way better. Actually, think about it. The big crux here is that Endeavor is not superhuman, and that All Might is superhuman. In terms of a role model, who do you want as the role model? A superhuman that the vast majority of people may never get to be like, or Endeavor? Someone who represents mortality and hard work and failure, and was able to get to the top, and was able to try and to some degree repent for what he had done before. The reality is, the majority of people are like Endeavor, not like All Might. So this is the other side of it, and we actually see this in the story. When Endeavor becomes the number one hero, his efforts are causing all the other heroes to change, which is something that All Might could never do. So when it comes to that particular line, yeah, Endeavor should never be either of those two people, because those two people are insane in their own ways. And Izuku especially. Never be Izuku. Now, one of the negative points here is that don't even dwell on the notion of some grand rebirth. You're an ugly person. You're always going to be fighting your true enemy, your weakness. So he makes Endeavor focus on the fact that he's weak, and that's who your enemy is going to be. Endeavor burns the image of his past. The thing is, he can't burn his past no matter what he does. But the burning of the past is like, you have to kind of wonder, is Endeavor doing that out of rage? Is his past self a symbol of that weakness? Is that why he's burning it? Is he hoping that he'll be able to do something bigger? There's a lot of ways that you can really interpret the burning of his past there. At the end of the day, he's burning in hellfire, so we'll have to see what ends up going, what direction he wants to take Endeavor in, like maybe in the next chapter. If we get to see Endeavor versus Toya, or like Endeavor in front of Toya, maybe we'll see where exactly Endeavor's rhetoric ends up. Anyway, page 13, we have a pretty awesome shot of Endeavor. We see his hand on fire. People still don't believe that Endeavor is a principal character here, whatever. Now, what I'm actually really curious about is that Endeavor was able to mold the flames into the form of a fist. Like when you look at the flames, you can see a thumb. That's not something we've really seen before. So it's like a small degree of fire molding ability. I wonder if he's going to be able to mold flames better than he was before. Like he had a mini quirk awakening here. I just really wonder. I think it's just incredible that he's able to constrain the flame the way he is. And I wonder if it's just like a visual effect or if we'll actually see it expand next chapter. We then go into page 14 and 15, where Endeavor pretty much tells All For One to screw it. This is my job. I'm going to do my job. I just think this is good. Yeah, because, Endeavor, you're being paid. This is what you're here for. I'm just doing my job. So I do hope we get to see some pretty good moments here. If Endeavor just keeps on with the idea that I'm just doing my job, this might be actually really interesting, because he might not listen to All For One anymore. Now, in the final panel, we see that Endeavor is it looks like he's pointing behind him. I wonder if he's got some firepower coming up there. It's going to be really interesting. I do wonder if releasing fire from an open wound helps him keep his temperature under control, but I can't come up with the logic to justify that. Anyway, All For One is there. He's probably gonna oh man, I hope he shits his pants, man. Okay, I just remembered something I wanted to talk about. So this is having to do with the future. I think I mentioned it last week, but right now I am very biased to think that All For One is not gonna be down the next chapter. He's not going to be fully defeated. I still think All For One's going to have one last hurrah. Now, what that hurrah is going to take the form of, I don't know. It's just for me, I think it's a little bit awkward to finish up a fight like Spinner's fight, or even the stuff over at Gigantomachia. After All For One goes down, it just feels a little bit awkward. I don't know how exactly the author is going to create the situation, but right now I feel that maybe next chapter we see All For One do one last ditch effort that prolongs the fight. Maybe he, I don't know, traps himself in a cocoon that the heroes have to try and break through, or something like that. Some kind of delaying tactic. Or maybe the author plays with the timeline a little, and he has All For One signaling a comeback at the same time that things go off in the other battlefields. I don't think that would be a good move. I think the author has to kind of show everything before he signals the comeback, if there is going to be a comeback. Point is, I think there is room for a wrinkle to occur here, because to me it just feels strange to actually finish off All For One before doing something like Spinner and Toga. And again, it's a little bit complicated because we have the vestige. So even if you finish off the All For One main body, the vestige is still there. It's just I still think the main body is important. So I know this is a point that I've talked about on the streams a lot. I'm very biased on it. This is entirely coming out of my own sensibilities of what I think is appropriate. If the author comes in there and he makes something cool, then that's awesome. Because I personally can't see it, so I think that gives the author a big opportunity there when it comes to me being surprised in my own personal enjoyment of the series. So I am very curious, but right now I'm hedging my bets on a wrinkle occurring with All For One here. I still think we have to go into Plan B, and for things to go to Plan B, things have to go terribly. So still expecting to see that happen. Again, it'd be very awkward if we finish up this fight and we get the final word on this fight before even introducing Gashly. It would feel so incredibly awkward. I'm not really sure, but we'll have to see. Maybe in the next chapter it starts off with Horikoshi forcing the fight away from the battlefield or something like that, God forbid. Anyway, returning to the video proper. Overall, chapter 356 of Hero Academia, I think, is a very strong Endeavor chapter. It again gives us hope for the future when it comes to the 1A kids. If I had to rank the 1A kids in terms of like how impactful their moments have been, like Jiro's at the top in terms of rhetoric. Kaminari and Momo are like at the bottom, but it's a good bottom because they're doing something useful. And Tokoyami is right behind Jiro because he actually got to do something against All for One. We'll have to see what else the other kids get to do, but right now, still looking hopeful for those kids. Anyway, guys, let me know what you thought down below, and until next time, I hope you have an absolutely great day.